All right. Hey, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Deep Dives. This time with modefi, I believe is how you pronounce it.
Modify.
Modify. Oh, no, I like
Yeah.
modefi better. And this is Ryan. He's one of their founders, I believe. And
Yeah.
we're gonna get into it. Ryan, yeah, I guess how did you start Modify? Maybe a little bit
Well,
about.
basically, I've been in the space for quite a few years now, almost 5 years. And my co-founder Trevor and I have been really in depth with it, and figuring out how blockchain works, all that kind of stuff in the beginning, right? And we really were fascinated with it, and we started seeing a lot of issues coming up with the oracles, essentially, right? The lack of oracles, lack of decentralization, that kind of thing. So we were looking at what kind of solutions can we provide to fill the gaps, right? So that's kind of how we got started, right? Like, I like to solve problems.
So when did you guys get started? What was it, like 2018, 2019?
It was actually in 2017.
Okay. You and your founder?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And then when did you, I guess, when did you start on Modify officially? Like, when was that?
I would say, I think that was early 2021.
Oh, okay.
No, sorry, early 2020,
Very
actually.
fun.
Yeah, because 2021 was when we launched.
Yeah. Okay. Did you guys do any raises or anything like that?
We did, yeah. We did a raise early 2021. We did a raise with TrustSwap.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Would you recommend them? It was good.
Yeah, it was a good process. It was good. Sorry, I'm just trying to switch my views here so it looks like I'm actually talking to you.
No, it's good.
Yeah, no, it was a great experience. Jeff was good. Went pretty smooth. It was a success for sure. And yeah. No
Cool.
complaints.
And I guess, like, why did you come after the Oracle problem? Was this just, were you struggling to build something on your own? Did you kind of have some expertise there, or did you just see like other people struggling with it and it kind of came in?
Yeah, it was kind of a combination of everything. Like, we started, seeing these problems that were arising, right? And like I said, we were looking for problems in the space to solve. The lack of, some of the products that we were looking to build as well. So we were looking to fill the voids, right? So that was kind of the main reason. We
Cool.
saw a problem, a big problem, right, that was happening in the space, and we wanted to come up with a solution for it.
Awesome. Well, yeah, I guess we can just get started whiteboarding out how you guys work and
Sounds good.
what the story is. So what would be like the prime example of what something you guys do? Like, would it be, I guess, price feeds would probably be an easy one? Like,
Actually, no, we don't really do much in terms of price feeds. So that was kind of why. Yeah, so we actually have a few different products that we're working on. So one that we had talked about previously with you guys was the decentralized aggregated oracle, right? So
yes.
using feeds from other oracles and being able to put them through a smart contract and create like a median based off of timestamps and the price data. So that's one thing. Like, we did have a beta built for that. One of the biggest issues though was we were kind of missing some of the endpoints that we needed. So we didn't have enough data to aggregate. I mean, we had enough to aggregate, but we were using, like, for example, like Chainlink, you guys, and then Uniswap and Sushi kind of thing, right? So we were using a couple dexes and a couple of oracles like Teller.
So for those listening, this was, I guess, Modify V1 was they built, it was an aggregation oracle, right? You just took the median of various oracles in the system.
Yeah, also taking into consideration like deviations in the pricing and timestamps and such too.
Yep.
Yeah,
and then I guess continue. Sorry for interrupting.
No, it's all good. Yeah, so that was kind of the first product that we had built out with the beta. It's kind of on the side burner currently because we were waiting for a few more sources to kind of become live. And I think at this point, there's a lot more to choose from, which is nice. But we really wanted to start focusing on our on-demand Oracle, which basically it kind of hits a whole bunch of different sections of data that aren't touched on quite so much yet with existing oracles, right? So like typically oracles, they're price feeds, right? You guys know that, right? So or any sort of like integers, that kind of thing. I'm not 100% familiar if Teller deals with anything outside of price feeds.
We do, but yeah, don't worry about it.
Okay. So yeah, one of the biggest things is like with current oracles, they're kind of limited to mainly integers, right, and APIs, right? So that's kind of one of the biggest things. So there's a lot of data out there that isn't integers. You know, there's strings, fractions, and things like that, right? So and also there's a lot of data out there that doesn't have a direct API to access. And we wanted to kind of create less friction when a developer or a user wants to request data. So currently, as it stands, like from what I understand with Chainlink, if you want something that they don't currently offer, you need to email them, get in contact with them, have a meeting with them, you know, let them know what kind of data you want, set up the APIs, you know, they give you the fee structure, all that kind of stuff. And then, you know, the process could take, I don't know exactly, but I'm assuming the process takes at least a couple of weeks, you know, maybe it could take months, right? And they could just even say, hey, look, we don't care enough, you know, you're not requesting enough data. This isn't enough for us. So they may not even take on that, you know, request, right? So essentially what we're doing is we're creating the ability for people to request like one-off data that you may use in like a P2P kind of situation, like maybe wagers or like for insurance or real estate or anything like that. So you may not necessarily need the same type of data all the time at specific time intervals. You may, maybe you're just a developer or a user that just saw, you know, a bet that was happening or a wager that was happening on Twitter, and you wanted to do it in a decentralized way without like a trusted escrow, essentially, right?
Yep.
So then you can create that data request quite easily. You can either use our front end, which is like a wizard, and it builds everything for you, or you can use the back end through like Web3, or you can use build it into your smart contracts and have your smart contracts when they deploy, it actually calls our contracts and deploys the requests automatically for you. So it's essentially, instead of waiting that months or weeks or whatever for that data request to happen from, let's say like Chainlink or whatever, it can happen within 5 minutes.
Cool. So yeah, well, let's get into how it works a little bit. So I guess, what networks are you guys on? I'm guessing mainnet Ethereum, and then
currently we're just on Phantom testnet.
Phantom.
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll go Phantom, and then I'm guessing you're going to be on all EVM chains. That's the plan, or
yeah, that's the plan. Yeah.
Okay. So this will be Phantom. Okay, and then so we would have user over here. What would be an example question, like who won the Super Bowl last year, or who's going to win the Super Bowl or something?
Yeah. Yeah.
We'll do the Super Bowl question. So who won the Super Bowl, and then he formats his query and he asks it to the smart contract, right?
I guess like I said, there's kind of 3 different ways that you can go about it. So sure. I guess let's talk about the first way, which would be like our front end. So they can visit our front end Web3 application.
Well, I'm guessing that would be the same, like either way, it's the same as like the user sending information to the contract, right? Or does it not go to the contract?
It is, except you don't have to do the coding, right? So like you can build it all into your smart contract and just code it all in there, and then deploy it, and it talks to our contracts and deploys the contracts that it needs, and sets all the data, all the you know, information and everything in the contracts. If you're not knowledgeable with doing something like that with the smart contract, you can do it through our front end.
Cool. So we would, and then do you, well, I'll just write Super Bowl for question. SB question. Do they send a payment with it? Usually.
Yeah, yes.
Okay, so
Yeah.
you'll have to send some cash, and this, I'm guessing, is going as a reward to whoever fills the request.
Yeah.
Okay, so we ask a question to the smart contract. This is like this step looks like identical in like every Oracle I've ever done. So it's
Yeah.
Then what's, I guess, on the back end, what then is happening? You know, who's answering said request?
Okay, so basically once they've initiated the request and the contracts are deployed, then on the back end, it's actually validated and data is provided via the front end. So it can also be done through the direct interaction with the smart contract as well. But we build a front end for people to make it easier for the people to provide the data, right? So basically anybody that's holding mod token, they can deposit it into our token holder contract. And then there's kind of like a staging period. So you deposit your tokens and then you wait 24 hours before you can use them.
So we'll say that we have these 3 validators over here.
Yeah.
Or what do you call them?
Yeah, we just call them validators, providers. Cool. Yeah.
They deposit it into the. I'm too high there. They deposited into the modefi contract.
Into one of them, yeah. There's actually about 35 contracts in this system.
Whoa. Okay. Yeah. So they would deposit it into like the staking contract, I guess you would say.
Yeah, it would be in the token holder contract. Yeah.
Token holder contract.
Yeah.
And now they wait 24 hours and then they're allowed to answer questions, right?
Essentially, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So then what they do after that 24 hours is they go through the list of requests and they find a request that they want to provide the data for. Okay. And then there's a collateral that's required. So the creator, basically the data requester, the creator is the one that sets a collateral. So they'll say, okay, we need $100 worth of collateral from each provider. And then they'll also say how many providers they need. So they kind of set the security parameters. Okay. And then they also set the dispute times as well.
So he could say each person has put in $100 collateral. We're going to require 50 people, and then, or is that a good number?
Oh, it's a little high, but yeah, I would say
well,
like about 6 people or 9 people. We do it in triads, so it's 3, 6, 9.
So what would be like a normal collateral amount then? 100 or?
Just like what we're doing the beta testing, we're just kind of setting it at about 100.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then I guess the dispute period, what would be like? What's a normal
typically
one?
It's about 4 hours. It can be anywhere up to basically 48 hours.
Yep. Cool. Okay, so he sets these things, and then the guys over here would, I guess they would say like, oh, I want to answer this, because I'm guessing they would split the reward 6 ways if he requires 6.
Yeah.
So then they would go in and answer it, right?
Yeah.
And then he would wait the dispute period, and then he can use it, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So essentially, once the 6 providers have provided the data, as long as it's reached consensus, which currently, like, the consensus mechanism is going to change a little bit, because we did run into some minor issues with strings. Probably the same issues that you guys have kind of run into with strings as well, but we did find a solution, so we're working on that. But essentially the consensus mechanism works. It has to be a 5 out of 6. So anything less than a 5 out of 6, then essentially it starts over again, and then it's open for providers again. So if it has 6 out of 6 or 5 out of 6, Then at that point, it's reached consensus, and then it just has to wait out the dispute period time.
Okay, so like it checks and then it goes, they reach consensus. And then.
And then
Good.
onto the
So
dispute.
who
Yeah.
can dispute it? Is it just the user or can anybody dispute it?
So it's anybody involved financially in the contract. So anybody that has provided the data, they've provided collateral and data, or the creator themselves.
Okay, so rando people can't come in and dispute it.
No.
Okay. Cool. So they ask those people, is it good? And then if yes, you just wait the 4 hours and use it. Wait. Dispute period. And then if it's no, what happens?
It starts the process over again.
Oh, so do they have to pay to dispute it?
No.
No, so,
Okay, so oh yeah, sorry. Okay, so for the dispute, if somebody does dispute it and they're successful with disputing it, they, in order to actually dispute it, they actually also have to put up collateral as well, right? So that we're not getting, you know, false disputes, that kind of thing, right? So they're putting up the collateral. If the disputes get accepted, then the disputer actually gets rewarded.
so
I
what does it
believe-
mean? So okay, so it disputes, and then it goes back up here to sample again for new guys. But then what happens to that original collateral? Those people who submitted bad data.
So nothing happens just yet until we come to a full consensus. So it basically, their collateral is locked at this point in time
Okay.
until we get to a full consensus. Once we're to a full consensus and we know the final result, then that's when the slashing happens of the collateral. Because someone, there could have been a 5 out of 6, and the sixth person that wasn't included in the original consensus provided the correct data. So in the end, if it gets disputed and then it's has to go through consensus again, that person that provided it the first time, they get paid out. Everybody else gets slashed. So we can't. We have to basically keep everybody locked until we actually come to a full consensus.
Yeah, no, I like that because there's no voting or anything. It's kind of, yeah, no, that's cool. And then, okay, so that works. I guess the question would be, so whenever you're paying to dispute, how much collateral would you have to lock there? Would it be the same as this?
Yeah.
Okay, so it would just be like another $100, and then it would kick off another round, and that would be the dispute cost. So, and I guess how long do the 6 people? I guess anybody's allowed to submit, so usually it would be relatively fast. I'm guessing whenever people, once you ask the question, it would be relatively fast and go here, because you know, like I'm just wondering the attack vector of like, how much would it cost to just dispute every value that came through? You know, like, or censor the system. I guess here it would be, you would have to be one of the 6 participants.
Mhm.
You could even submit good, like, could you submit a good value and then dispute it? Like, let's say it's 6 out of 6 consensus.
Mhm.
Could you then still dispute it?
You could. Doesn't mean it's going to pass the dispute.
Well, you're right, but you could just censor it that way. So like you could just dispute it and then like prevent, you know, like at the 4 hour mark. So then it would cost you like $100 every 4 hours to like just kick, you know, kick off another 4 hour round. And then
you could, yeah.
And then, but you would get your money back, or I guess you wouldn't get your money back. You would just lose like $100 each time you wanted to kick it off. Yeah. Okay. No, I mean, that's Teller. Every Oracle has that problem about.
Yeah.
What's the cost? What's the cost to dispute? But you're not trying to be super fast price feed anyway. So
that's exactly. That's not what we're going after. We're going after the on demand and like the one-offs kind of thing, right? So There's also a reputation system as well. So then it prevents people from seeing, oh, okay, I can use this to my advantage and then create a bunch of different accounts, buy a bunch of mods, separate it all out, wait the 24-hour period, and then just start like hammering it with the wrong data, right?
Yep.
They can't do that because there's also a reputation system. So it kind of essentially is open, like it's 15 levels of reputation and you have to build your way up. So every time you provide good data, it kind of is kind of like a towards your score. And then the reputation gets built up over time. And then when these contracts are looking for data providers, it basically starts kind of at the top, working its way down. So it starts with a little bit more reputable providers.
So what does that mean? That means that if you're one of the more reputable providers, you're chosen first.
You get a little bit more, not so much chosen first, but you need to be included in the actual consensus. So it can't just be a bunch of level ones. If there's a level
Well, I thought
5.
so this guy sets the collateral amount, but there's also reputation amounts requirements for it as well.
Just the way that the consensus works, yeah.
Okay, so it has to be like 5 out of 6 have to do it, plus what is it? You need multiple. Like what percentage of the 6 would have to be like high level guys?
1/3, I believe. I think it's kind of I'd have to double check. But I believe that it's kind of in thirds.
Okay. So then
so it'd be like the first 2 to provide would have to be the top level. And then
low rep,
next,
mid rep,
yeah,
high rep.
yeah. And then basically the way that it works is it gives them the priority for the higher reputation to basically take those 2 spots, right? If there's nobody there in a timely fashion to take those 2 spots, then it basically drops down the ladder 1 spot and then allows the mid reputation to step in.
Yeah. Okay. And then I'm guessing the same, if it still takes even longer, then the lower rep guys could jump into.
Correct, yeah.
Yeah.
So that just prevents, it from going stale, and if there's not even anybody available to provide at the time, then at least it kind of works its way down.
Okay, so another question, why do they have to be locked here? Why can't they just deposit the collateral as they go?
Because we kind of have like a staging period, right? It's kind of it's to decentivize people from and prevent people from trying to manipulate a contract or a request, right? So
Sure.
If, let's say, another developer creates a contract that's requesting the specific data and it has a monetary value, somebody can't just come in from outside and be like, hey, I'm going to buy a whole bunch of mod and then just use that as collateral. They have to wait the 24-hour period for the staging process to be over.
What is there any way to fail the staging process?
No.
So I mean, they could still do that. They would just have to wait 24 hours, right?
They would, yeah.
Yeah.
But that's why the reputation is important as well, right? Because they would basically start at a very, very low reputation. So in order for them to be able to try to manipulate the outcome, it could be very costly for them and end up in the end costing them more than what it's worth, right? And they won't know if it's going to be successful until the end. So there's no way to actually predict if they're going to be successful with it or not.
For sure. Yeah, no, I it's cool. So okay, so they would, I guess, how do you have 35 contracts in your system then? Where what am I missing here? Continue.
That's the magic, the secret sauce. It's not open source currently for obvious reasons, because we did build it from the ground up and it's something that has been done before, right? So
Oh, come on. You can open source it. Nobody's
No,
stealing
we will, but not until we're ready for mainnet, right? Because obviously we need to do the auditing and that kind of thing too, right? But there's a lot of moving parts to the system. That's why it's also taken us so long to build this as well, right? So
Sure.
one of the big issues was, I think we started out with just like a few contracts, and then as we were building it and putting it all together, our CTO, like Jesse, he started noticing, okay, well, he's reaching the limits of the contracts quite fast, right? So then
Sure.
we had to build. I'm not as technical as him, obviously, but we had to
Cool. Yeah.
build a lot of other container contracts to hold the information, and then we have factory contracts too. So you like, the best part about this whole thing is that you don't even need an interface. You can from start to finish do all this through a smart contract, and it does. The factories are creating the contracts that you need to plug into. Yeah, so it's completely on chain, everything, 100%
Nice.
from start to finish.
Yeah, very nice. I guess, and then what would be, this would work. I mean, what would be your plans, I guess, for doing it cross chain? Because that would be very, very difficult, I'm guessing.
Well,
like anything.
yeah. I mean, it really depends. Like, we started kind of looking into what is that? Star? No.
Starport. Yeah. Stargate, one of those bridges. Yeah.
Yeah, layer 0, right? So we started looking into that. We've already done some testing with it, and it works. The issue is like, I haven't looked too deeply into it, and I'm assuming it's kind of, my concern is that it's probably still centralized in a way, because I couldn't find out the information of the relay nodes and all that kind of stuff.
I'll give you a spoiler. It is. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I figured. That's the biggest issue. I mean, a lot of us are running into that issue too, right? It's finding reliable third-party decentralized cross-chain solution, right, for messaging especially. So yeah.
Well, I mean, you have like the option of, basically it's the same as like Teller or any of these Oracle systems, is you basically either have it all in one chain and bridge the answers back and forth, or you would launch the system on another chain and bridge your token over and just have it, running on all the chains. And pros and cons to both, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
yeah, we've looked into, like I said, using the layer 0 with keeping everything on Phantom, for example, because the finality is amazing, and the cost for transactions is also quite low too. So that would be ideal, is if we could keep the entire ecosystem on Phantom, but then have our cross-chain messaging using something like layer 0, if it can be trusted, that kind of thing. Not, like I said, I haven't done enough digging onto, how the relayers work and all that kind of stuff. So, but the alternative, if we can't find something kind of in a timely manner, would be, like you said, deploying on every chain, and then people would have to move their collateral around, right? Go cross chain, that kind of thing. But well, kind of the ideal system would be where we have it on, let's say, Phantom, or a low cost, fast finality EVM, the main system, right? And then having a messaging system back and forth that's able to tell us balances of the users on different chains, so they can lock their tokens on one chain, like Ethereum, for example, and have access to those tokens on Phantom, right?
Yeah, for sure. So you can use Teller, but we're on certain EVM chains, but you can pass cross-chain balances. But the problem, it's not like a real-time thing, so it's not like pretending to be, like some of these other ones, some of these other cross-chain messaging apps. I think as far as questions would go, what would be, like, I know some of these one-off oracles, sometimes you can have really unspecified questions that don't resolve properly? How does modefi handle those? So, like if it was, I don't know, like who won the election on the moon? Like, like what it won't resolve. Like there's just no
Yeah.
correct or wrong answer. Like what
Yeah.
would happen if that gets put in?
Chances are it's not going to make it to consensus. So what happens is obviously we leave it up to the providers to go through and see, okay, does this make sense? Is the data there?
Right.
That you can actually get the data. Is it
So basically just nobody would report for it.
Yeah, and if somebody does, and we have had some people do that on the test net, where they go to stake first before they provide the data, and then they're like, oh, the information's not here. So the way that it works is you can actually withdraw your stake. So if you've staked your tokens, and then you find out the data is not available, or it just doesn't make sense for you to do it anymore, you can actually withdraw your stake.
So this guy could withdraw it after a certain period of time.
Yeah, that as well. So if the 24-hour period kind of elapses after nobody's provided any sort of data, the contract creator is able to come back in and basically delete or change the contract specifications.
Nice.
In order for it to make more sense. Maybe they put the wrong information in or wrong source link or something like that, then they're able to come in and make those changes.
No, yeah, that makes sense completely.
Yeah.
And then I guess reputation, is there any way to lose reputation? I guess only providing bad data.
Yeah, well, you can also lose reputation as well by being late. So
Okay.
So the way that it works is first you stake your tokens as collateral, and then there's kind of a window, time window, in order to provide the data. And if you're outside of that time window, then you can lose reputation that way as well, because we didn't want anybody to start like just stake with a whole bunch of accounts or something like that and just tie up the data set. So what happens is after 15 minutes of if you've staked, provided the collateral, after 15 minutes, it opens that spot back open again for somebody else to come in and take
so
your
you would have
place.
to, you have two separate transactions. You have to deposit the collateral in and then provide the answer.
Correct.
Why,
Not so much
why
deposit, it's more of like the bookkeeping side of things.
Yeah, I mean, why wouldn't you just have them do it in the same step?
Because we kind of wanted to make it 2 steps to give people the opportunity to back out if they needed to. So yeah, that's kind of the main reason, I guess.
Okay. No, that sort of makes sense. But yeah, I could see that being one step, but I think if maybe if you wanted to, like, everybody races to just put in the collateral and then they take their time, it could be like a griefing attack, I guess you could say.
Yeah, that's why we have that 15-minute window, right? So
yep,
you have 15 minutes to provide the data. If you don't provide it within that window, then your spot can be taken over by somebody else.
Yep, and you lose reputation.
Yeah.
Cool. And then is the reputation sellable, would be the question.
Technically it could be.
Well, yeah, I mean, you could stake a smart contract and then resell it or tokenize it.
Yeah, like I mean, I guess if somebody wanted to, they could build up a reputation of that, like using a smart contract or something and then sell it potentially. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that would be like the negative would be like, if you had enough reputation, like you would expect everyone to basically just tokenize that in the long run. And then that in and of itself would be almost like a governance token in a way that you could sell whenever you're ready to exit being a modefi reporter. You would just sell it all off to whoever.
Yeah, you could. And I mean, you could build another account from zero, right? If you wanted to.
Yeah, for sure. And you could just build it up, and that you could like farm reputation and sell it off to potential attackers or people. If there is like a monetary benefit to having high reputation, which there likely could be if there's a lot of tips, you would want to. It could be worth something to sell off, and then cool. And what's your token used for, by the way? I guess it's used for staking, and then it's used for payments, I'm guessing here.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then anything else?
No, and the system is basically just used for collateral and rewards. And the creator, the best part about this is the creator doesn't need to touch the mod token. They just use the native chain token. And then we have a routing system that takes care of exchanging the native token for the reward token.
And then I guess cool. And any governance in your system?
Not currently. There will be.
Do you want what kind of governance would you like?
It would mainly be for disputes, because currently the dispute resolution is done by us.
Well, where is their dispute resolution?
So if let's say, for example, reaches consensus, makes it to this dispute period, and somebody was like, no, this is wrong, they want to raise a dispute, there has to be yes, this dispute that was raised is good, yes, this dispute that was raised is no good, right? So when somebody raises a dispute, currently we are basically the ones saying yes, the dispute makes sense to raise, or no, this was unnecessary.
Why wouldn't you just let anybody raise a dispute and then you wait for it to go to the wait for it to settle via this consensus? Isn't that the plan?
We had our reasons, not to say we might not, go that route down the road. We're still trying to test out a few different ways.
Okay, so this is like in the future. Currently, you're the.
Well, it still works that way, but we're basically the kind of the middleman at the moment.
So you have to approve the dispute, basically.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, currently, as it stands.
Because if you didn't have to do it, then you get into that problem of censoring, like we were talking about earlier, right?
Yeah. Well, and also the thing is too, is if we kind of put it into that, it could get into an infinite loop. Essentially, if somebody really wanted to, they could raise a dispute to delay the data. And then if they had enough money, they could just, like you were saying earlier, raise a dispute.
Well, I mean, you would have to do like similar to like what Teller does, is we just double this cost. So you would just make this prohibitively expensive.
Yeah.
You can dispute a few times, but after a while, like you're out of luck, kid.
Yeah, exactly.
And then, or you just have to accumulate more and more of the token and reputation. Yeah. Okay. Well, no, it's helpful. No. And then, I mean, do you guys have you planning upgradability or voting on that as well?
I mean, we're kind of in the early stages still. There's some things that we still need to work out, and it's going to take some time, to work everything out. So, I mean, we do actually have some upgradability built in, but obviously we want to make it in a way that it's not going to concern anybody. Sure. It's not like a proxy or something, right? Because nobody knows, you can do anything with a proxy, right? So, yeah, we're trying to avoid that.
Yeah. No, I mean, those are the hard decisions you got to make as you're launching, and it's for sure. But no, I like the no governance model, so I'll push you guys to go that route.
Yeah,
on a personal level.
Yeah,
but no, this is really cool. Yeah, like if you removed that approving the thing, I really like it settles with that there is no voting in the system, which is super cool about it.
Yeah.
Like you could actually have a system without any voting, and that's
fun.
So, like I don't think you could do it with price feeds, for example. Kind of like a lot of it wouldn't work with price feeds, because like with a price feed, if you disputed it once, the price changes the next round. So it's like you disputed it when it was $1, but now it's $1.20. Was
Yeah.
the previous dispute good or bad? Like, I don't know. Like, it could have been
Yeah.
good, could have been bad. Like, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. And then at that point, your data is almost useless, right? Because it's a
right. Like, it's you need more subjective input just because you need to know about when the submission happened, which is really hard.
Yeah.
So, no, this is cool. I guess, what can we, I'll stop. I was pinning myself so people could see the screen. Yeah, what can people look forward to? You know, when I guess are you going live if it's not live, and then what are some of the other plans that we can watch out for from modefi?
We don't have an exact date yet. It's like I said, there's a lot of contracts involved.
Sure.
So I was actually quite surprised to learn how many contracts exactly. So obviously it's going to be an extensive audit, and there's still a lot of testing going on. We're figuring out, there's obviously a difference when we're doing like the alpha testing within the team and the developers. Sometimes you stick within the box, and we've learned that, with the beta testing, with the public beta testing, that there's a lot more things that pop up. People think differently and treat things differently, right? So we've learned quite a few things from that. So like I said, we're looking at changing the way the consensus works slightly, because one of the issues we were having was with strings. So it's no with the so we have a bunch of different types of data that you can ask for, request, right? So some being like specific certain outcomes, and then also strings without outcomes defined, right? So that could basically mean anything. So then you come into the issue of formatting, right? So it's like, okay, well, does everybody capitalize the first letter of the string that's coming in? Or, how do you deal with special characters, that kind of thing, right? So we've figured out a model that I think will work quite well with that, keeping the formatting the same, and less people getting slashed for that or in trouble for that, right? So we are working on implementing that, which I'm excited for, because I think that should solve a lot of issues that we're currently having. And then we're adding in decimals here soon. We're just kind of finalizing the testing for that, and then fractions as well. But yeah, like I said, in terms of mainnet, couldn't say for sure. It took us quite a while to get to where we are now, with quite a few delays.
Sure.
You know how it is with development, obviously, right? And especially when you're building something from scratch, you don't realize all the issues or potential issues until you run into them, and then you start finding all these rabbit holes everywhere, right? So
Cool. Well, yeah, I mean, I guess, now I can just ask you the harder questions. I know you guys have been doing the Oracle space now for a while, and you're doing kind of the pivot to this chain and this instance, like what would you have done differently looking back? Like where were some of the challenges and some of the blind spots that you made as kind of an early entrepreneur in the B2B blockchain space?
I don't know. I don't feel like we made any wrong decisions so much. Aside from, I wish I could have been a little bit better with timelines,
Sure.
predicting timelines, that kind of thing. Obviously, we did lose some community members over that kind of thing, because things did take longer, delays, that kind of thing. So I guess one thing that I've learned in terms of that is I guess, under promise, over deliver, right?
Sure.
That's one of the biggest things, and we've learned from that. And we really try to shy away from giving any sort of like dates or launch dates or anything like that, because we've learned from our mistakes. Things take a lot longer typically than expected. Doesn't matter how easy they seem. you know, in the beginning, that kind of thing, you always run into potential issues and stuff, right? So
Yeah, well, what is it? I think it's Hofstadter's law. Like things take a lot longer than expected, even when considering Hofstadter's law. And
yeah,
it's always like that. So
yeah.
I feel you. No, well, you know, I think it's a super cool system, and you know, I wish you
Thanks.
the best of luck. Where can people sort of find more information on modefi, and where would you like to point them?
They can check out our website, modefi.io. I can also share a link with you as well to our
Sure.
actual beta. And then if you don't already have that, and then people can poke around in there, they can see it. All they got to do is just join the Phantom testnet with their wallet, and then just sign in, basically just proving that they own the wallet. And then once they're in there, they can, you know, see all the details and see how it all works, that kind of thing.
Nice. All right. Well, yeah, thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to add, or
Um,
wrap it up?
no, I don't think so. I think we
Okay,
covered
well,
a lot of the stuff. You know, if you want to set up another time, a later date to, you know, show off the front end or that kind of thing, then I'm open for that as well. So,
cool. Well, thanks, and yeah, talk to you soon.
all right, thanks again. Appreciate it.